Come sit with me, under this baobab tree, where the firelight reaches just far enough to see the faces of the people you love. I want to tell you about a woman who trusted. Not foolishly. Not blindly. She was intelligent enough to build a business from nothing and run it successfully for 15 years. She studied people before she trusted them. She watched. She listened. She calculated. She trusted correctly. Until she trusted the two people who had decided, in secret, that what she had built belonged to them. Her name is Adaeze. And by the time this story is over, the people who thought they had finished her will understand that they made the most expensive mistake of their lives. Loudspeaker before we begin, if you are new to this tree, welcome. My name is your storyteller, and this is the Talking Baobab. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single story. And if betrayal and justice are your language, drop a fire in the comments right now. Let's begin. Let me tell you about Adaeze Okafor. She grew up in Enugu state, in a house where her mother's hands were always moving, sorting fabric, counting change, folding goods, building the day's income from nothing every morning at Ogbate market. Her mother's hands were always stained with the small evidence of work, a thread here, a dye there. Adaeze watched those hands her whole childhood and decided, my hands will do the same. She started her table at Ogbate market at 23. A folding table, a rented storage room, and the 5,000 naira her mother pressed into her palm and said, "This is seed money. Do not eat it. Plant it." She planted it. By 30, she had a proper shop. By 35, she had moved out of the market and into a registered business address, Adaeze Uniforms and Textiles Limited. 17 employees. 3 contracts with state secondary schools for annual uniform supply. A small fleet of 2 delivery vehicles. She did not inherit any of this. She did not marry into any of this. She built it, receipt by receipt, relationship by relationship, early morning by early morning. Enugu State knows who she is. At the trade fair every November, Adaeze's stand is one of the ones people stop at. Not because of flashy display. She has never been flashy. She is in simple ankara, flat sandals, her company name badge on her chest. People stop because she knows what she is talking about. She knows her fabrics, her prices, her competitors' prices. She knows the names of her customers' children. This is Adaeze. Her husband Chidi comes to every trade fair with her. He stands beside her at the stand and hands out business cards and smiles at people. He is handsome. He makes a good impression. Adaeze always thought this was partnership. She would understand later that it was reconnaissance. Her best friend Ngozi is always at her table at the stand, arranging samples, laughing with customers, making the whole atmosphere warm. Ngozi has been her best friend since Form 2 at Government Secondary School in Enugu. She was Adaeze's matron of honor. She knows every supplier, every margin, every difficulty of the business because Adaeze told her everything. Adaeze told her everything. I want you to hold that sentence in your mind, because you will need it later. The first sign came in January of last year. One of Adaeze's fabric suppliers, an Alhaji in Kano she had been doing business with for 7 years, called her on a Tuesday morning to discuss the renewal of their annual contract. He mentioned, in passing, that he was glad the ownership transition had gone smoothly. Adaeze stopped. She said, "What transition?" The Alhaji paused. He said, "The change of signatory on the business account. Your husband came in December. He said you were transitioning the business directorship to a new entity. He signed the updated supplier credit agreement." Adaeze sat down. She sat at her desk in her own office and she sat very, very still. "When in December?" she asked. "The 14th, the Alhaji said. On December 14th, Adaeze had been at a trade meeting in Abuja. Chidi had driven her to the airport. He had kissed her goodbye. He had said he would be home by the time she returned. He had used the time she was at the airport to go to her fabric supplier in Kano, by phone, and sign an updated credit agreement as a new signatory on her business account. Adaeze thanked the Alhaji. She ended the call. She sat with what she had just learned for exactly 10 minutes. Then she began to check. She started with the business bank account. The January statement had not yet been sent, but she called the bank directly. The customer service representative told her that 2 signatories had been added to the business account in December. One was her husband. The other was a company she had never heard of, NGO Enterprises Limited. NGO Enterprises Limited. NGO. She said the initials out loud in her empty office. Ngozi. She said her friend's name out loud after that. And the thing that happened in her chest in that moment was not rage. It was not grief. It was something quieter and more precise than either. It was understanding. It was the specific, terrible clarity of a woman who has just assembled a picture that was always there but that love had prevented her from seeing. She did not call Chidi. She did not call Ngozi. She went to her filing cabinet. She pulled out every document in the business folder. She laid them on her desk. She began to read them with fresh eyes. She read for 3 hours. By the end of those 3 hours, Adaeze Okafor understood that she had been robbed. Not by strangers. By the 2 people she had built her life beside. Chidi and Ngozi had been in a business relationship for at least 2 years. They had been quietly using Adaeze's supplier relationships, credit arrangements, and business goodwill to set up a competing company. They intended, from what she could reconstruct from the documents, to transition Adaeze's key contracts to their new entity once they had the supplier relationships locked in. They were planning to leave her with the name and none of the business. And they had used 12 years of marriage and 20 years of friendship to get close enough to do it. Belshi could have confronted them that night. She had the evidence on her desk. But Adaeze Okafor had been her mother's daughter for 38 years. And her mother had taught her, a pot that is hurried boils over and wastes the soup. She put the documents back in the folder. She called no one. She went home and cooked dinner and sat across from her husband at the table and smiled. And Chidi, who did not know that she knew, smiled back. In this first episode, there is a lesson that comes before the justice. The lesson is this: the people who betray you most deeply are almost never strangers. They are the people you granted full access to your life, your documents, your diary, your plans, your fears, your passwords. They are the people who stood beside you at your own wedding. Guard the people you choose with the same care you use to guard the business. Not everyone who loves you intends to. Some people love the access you carry with you. Herb, before you give a person the key to your house, make sure they are not already making a copy of it. Adaeze knows. But knowing is only the beginning. The next step is understanding exactly how much they have taken, and exactly how much she can take back. She is going to visit a lawyer. She is going to sit across from Mr. Felix Eze and lay her documents on his desk. And what he tells her, what he says is possible, legally, quietly, without a single courtroom scene, will change everything. Because Adaeze is not planning revenge in the way you might expect. She is not planning a confrontation. She is not planning tears. She is planning something much more effective. Episode 2, The Quiet Strategy. Next time, under the Talking Baobab. Loudspeaker, if this story is already gripping you, please subscribe right now and hit the notification bell so episode 2 finds you the moment it drops. Leave a comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted? This tree holds no judgment. Share your story with us.